Thank you for joining me today. It is May 22nd, 2022, and today's training is on open houses. So I'm going to share my screen and teach you everything I know. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about how to be a successful open house agent. We're going to be looking at how to pick a home to do an open house in. We're going to look at preparing for your open house, social media, connecting with your visitors, the sign-in process, and the follow-up process. So first, let me tell you a little bit about me. My name is Linda Nuxall. I am a top producing agent in the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill area. I've been selling homes since 2005. Last year, I started a team, and I currently have 6 buyer's agents and an assistant. But what makes me a good candidate to give a talk on how to have a good open house is that my very first buyer and my very first seller came from my very first open house. I had not worked with a single client yet when I did my first open house, and I was able to convert somebody who came into my open house who wasn't represented into my buyer, and you can do this too. All real estate agents should be able to pick up a buyer client during an open house. If you have been doing open houses without success, you are either doing something wrong or possibly in the wrong profession, because we are in the business of communicating and engaging with people, and it shouldn't be that hard to do, but you need to follow a few rules that might be causing you roadblocks right now in order to accomplish your goal. So let's cover a few myths about open houses. Everyone who comes into an open house already has an agent. We hear that all the time from frustrated open house agents. But the fact of the matter is that even though a good portion of people who come to your open house are already working with an agent, probably 90% of the buyers that are not working with an agent are coming to open houses, and that's your opportunity. Those are the people you need to identify so that you can find a buyer in your open house. Another myth: the visitors were just looking, they're not actual buyers. That's not true either. Let's make a couple of comparisons here. When you go to a car lot to look at cars, and the salesperson comes out to greet you and says, "Hey, can I help you?" You are probably going to say, "No, I'm just looking." And if you go into a furniture store and the salesperson comes running over to you as soon as you walk into the door and says, "Hey, what can I help you find today?" You're probably going to say, "I'm just looking." But the fact of the matter is, if you really think about how often you've gone to a car lot or a furniture store when you haven't been in the market for one of those 2 items, it's probably extremely rare. Typically, when people step on a car lot, they might be stepping onto multiple car lots, but typically when they step onto a car lot, they are buyers, and they are probably going to buy a car pretty soon. And same thing with furniture. People aren't just stumbling into furniture stores to look around. They need a couch, they need a bed, something. So even though a buyer might say that they're just looking, they are probably more of a buyer than you think. Another complaint is that nobody comes to open houses. And although it is true that you could do an open house and have absolutely nobody show up, I'm going to help you strategize on picking open houses where people will show up. And finally, buyers won't work with me because I'm new. Well, the fact of the matter is, open house opportunities are a great place for you to be because nobody knows you are new. So all you have to do is be confident, courteous, engaging, and make these people like you, and you can pick up a buyer. Never tell anybody that you are new to the business. Once you make your announcement that you've gotten into real estate, that's the last time you ever suggest that you are anything other than a super experienced and talented real estate agent. So moving into the selection process of your open house, this is where you need to really work hard. It's important, especially if you're a newer agent, that you are picking a location that you know very well, perhaps something in your own neighborhood or in your general area. Because you aren't a super experienced agent, you want to be able to talk smartly about something, and the location is something that you have control on. So definitely pick something in a location that you are very experienced with. And then when I did my very first open house, what I decided to do was to pick a house that was going to be something similar to what I would buy if I was making my next move. And I thought that that was a brilliant option because it enables you to connect with other people who are in the same part of their life that you are. Perhaps you're moving from a townhouse to a home, to a detached home, or perhaps that would be the most logical thing for you to do. You can bond with the people who are trying to take that next step. Perhaps you don't even own a home yet and you're just, would be a first-time home buyer. Then you might want to target an open house for first-time home buyers that you can connect with. The third thing is picking a newer listing. I mean, everybody knows that you don't want to be doing an open house in a stale listing that's been on the market for 100 days. They can't even get showing. So the likelihood that somebody's going to be walking into that open house is slim. However, if you get a house that's been on the market for less than a week, you have a whole lot better luck. So you want to focus on newer listings. And then finally, you want to focus on homes that are easy to find. My very first open house literally required one directional into the neighborhood and then an open house sign in front of the house. So the fewer directional signs you have, the better, because people will only look so hard for your open house, especially if they're a spontaneous drive-by. So you want to make it easy for people to find. You don't want to be out there putting 10 and 15 and 20 signs out. You just want to make it as easy as possible. Okay, so now you have picked the home that you want to do your open house with, and now you need to be prepared. So you want to either show up to your open house early, or you want to preview the house the day before. And preferably you preview it the day before. You also want to talk to the listing agent and learn about things that maybe you just can't see with the naked eye. And find out what the listing agent thinks are the really good selling points of the house and the things that they want you to make sure that people know about. When you're doing your preview of the house, you want to anticipate questions and concerns that buyers might have when they're coming into the open house. For example, if you are doing an open house on a property that has a huge field behind the house, I mean, it's very likely that people are going to come in and they're going to say, hey, what's going on with that field behind the house? Are they ever going to develop there? So go ahead and find that information out ahead of time, and then you can be super knowledgeable and expert in the field and potentially somebody that unrepresented buyer wants to work with. You also want to read the disclosures. Anything that the listing agent has prepared about the house is something that you want to research. You do not want to have to look and see that it has a new roof after the buyer has asked the question. You need to know that up front. So the other thing I want you to do is I want you to research active comparables. This is another thing I did at my very first open house. I actually went and I looked for other properties that a person stumbling into my open house might be interested in. And I printed out the MLS sheets and I created little packets. And then if I determined that a buyer was unrepresented, then I would offer up my other listings for them to potentially consider. And we would talk about those listings. I would encourage them to drive by and maybe meet them there after the open house to show them some properties. So definitely research your comparables. Ideally, you would like to preview those comparables, because then if somebody comes in and says, oh, the backyard of this house is too small, then again, you're the expert. You can say, oh, well, by the way, have you seen this house right up the street? It's got an amazing backyard. It's the same schools. It's a little bit more expensive, but it shows amazing. I'd be happy to show it to you. So bring some water and some cookies if you can. Cookies are a great snack for people when they've been out doing a lot of open houses. They're sometimes hot, they're thirsty, they're hungry, and they will stick around, linger, and chat with you a little bit more if they've got something to do. And then, of course, don't forget to bring your Working with Real Estate Agents brochure. So if somebody starts talking to you about stuff that you need to talk about the disclosure on, then you want to have that prepared and ready to go. Okay, so social media is huge. Back when I got my license many, many years ago in 2005, I did not have access to social media. And since then, I can see how social media has actually helped propel my business to new levels. And so you want to take advantage of the photo opportunity. So even if you don't pick up a buyer at your open house, you should certainly be using all your social media platforms to let everybody around you know that you are out there working hard. And you want to do this every single week and every single month. Anytime you can do some social media where you are showing people that you are doing open houses and showing properties, that's going to make your sphere of influence in particular be more likely to reach back out to you. So you want to advertise your open houses prior to the open house on all social media platforms. You want to send an email to your sphere inviting them to the open house. And if you're super savvy, super tech savvy, you're going to do some sort of like a boom boom call or a video call that's very popular right now. And you'll get a better response if you do that. You can do a Facebook Live, an Instagram story, a TikTok from the house, give them a tour of the house, show them the outside of the house, give them a sneak peek of the house, but definitely get your face out there working this open house. And then finally, you can send a postcard to your sphere of influence about the open house. Now, this requires a little bit more planning because you have to get that out in the mail and it's got to get there before the open house. But it is a really, really good thing to do if you can do it. You got to keep in mind, not everybody's on social media, not everybody's on Facebook, and Facebook algorithms prevent everybody you know from seeing your post anyway. So don't assume that just because you're putting it on social media that it's going to reach everybody. Put it on a postcard. And even though we know that 90% of the time people are looking through the mail as they're headed to the trash, and your postcard's going to go pretty much from the mailbox to the trash can in a minute, you need to keep in mind that at least for that minute, you have reminded that sphere of influence that you are a real estate agent. And so anytime you can do that, it's a plus. And if they're looking to move, you might make it on the refrigerator with a magnet. Okay, so now it is time to welcome your visitors into the house. So you're going to introduce yourself. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Linda. Put your hand out. And they are probably going to share their name with you as well. You are going to acknowledge their children. People love it when you're nice to their kids. Little boy's in his soccer clothes, probably just coming from a soccer game. How did his team do? How old is he? What's his name? Be nice to the children and you will win the hearts of those buyers. And then finally, I recommend that you tell them that you're going to take them on a tour of the house. Instead of asking them if they would like you to give a tour, in which case they will say no, you're going to tell them, hey, let me show you the house. So we're here in the entryway right now. And if you look to the left, we've got this fantastic dining room with this tray ceiling and this beautiful chandelier. And then as you work your way into the kitchen, then you're going to start the sign-in process. So the sign-in process, this is why we are at the open house. We are at the open house to get contact information and to make connections with people who are not working with a real estate agent. So as you head into the kitchen, you've already started a rapport with these people. They're already following you. And so that's when you are going to pick up your iPad, which has Spacio or something similar to it for your open house. And you're going to say, hey, listen, the seller requires that I get everybody who comes into their home to sign in. So, hey, John, what is your last name? And John will tell you his last name. And then is your email Gmail or Yahoo? And John will probably tell you his full email. And is your area code 919 or 910 as you're looking at your iPad and just formally taking that information? Now, the buyer might decline to give you his contact information. He might decline to give you his phone number. And if he does, that's okay. And then finally, the most important question is, who is your real estate agent? So this is a really important part. Instead of asking, are you working with a realtor, which so many open house agents do, and also they do it as soon as people walk in the door, you're going to say, who is your realtor? Because when you ask if they're working with a realtor, they're going to say yes. And when they say yes, then hands off, right? I mean, if they're working with a real estate agent, our code of ethics tells us we are not to engage that person. However, when you say, who is your realtor, and they actually have to come up with a name, they are more likely to confess that they are not working with a real estate agent. And that's really good information for you, because that means that you can start working on getting them as a buyer. Okay, so now you've determined that the buyer is not working with a real estate agent. And so you've given them a tour of the home, and hopefully you've picked up on some things that they like and some things that they don't like. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, I would hand them that buyer packet. Say, hey, listen, I put together a packet of some other houses in the same price point, same location, same school district, same neighborhood, whatever. And I'd love to share that with you. I'm not sure if you've seen any of these houses. This one just came on the market yesterday. You know, same price, better backyard. Did you see this one come on the internet yet? No, hadn't seen that one yet. Well, let me show you what we have. Maybe you even pull it up on your iPad and show them the house. But then the deal is that you're going to invite them to meet you at that house when you get done with your open house at 4 o'clock, and hopefully show them that property. And if they can actually see you, you know, in your element, showing a property, then they are likely to become a client of yours. So after the open house, this is really important. You've got to give that listing agent feedback, especially if our market turns and it's more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. I mean, sellers want to know what the feedback is, like pretty much, you know, a minute after the open house ends. They're dying to know what the feedback is. They're dying to know if there's a potential buyer who came through the house. And so it's really, really important, as exhausted as you are, that you hop on the phone on your way home, call the listing agent and give them feedback. And here's what they want to know. How many groups of people did you have come through? What was the overall feedback of the house? Did people like it, or did they not like it? Did anybody stay a long time, or did people just come and go? And here's the big thing. If somebody came and they were interested and they are working with the real estate agent already, who is that real estate agent? I can't tell you how many times I have open house agents call me afterwards and say, oh, so-and-so came, they seemed really interested, but they were already working with an agent. And then I'm like, who was the agent? And they're like, oh, I didn't catch their name. And it's like, listen, you got to help me out here. I want to be able to follow up with that agent. Granted, if they're very interested, their agent's going to reach out to me, but still, I want to follow up with that buyer's agent. And it's your job as the open house agent to help me by getting that information. And if you want more open house agents from that listing agent, or if you want more open houses from that listing agent, then you want them to love you. You want them to think you're the best open house agent there ever was. And the best way to do that is to give them lots of information at the end, so that they can immediately call their seller, look like a superstar, because they've got all this information about the open house. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to send thank yous. So hopefully you collected some emails. And so you're going to follow up with all the buyers who are not represented by another agent already. And you're going to thank them for coming to your open house. You're going to let them know where your next open house is. You're going to offer to show them, you know, additional properties when the time comes, ask them if they need a lender, all that kind of stuff. And then you're going to get them set up on a search based on the house that they came to. So you can set them up on a buyer search of other homes that might come on the market that will be branded with your information. So they'll get the search, and then hopefully they won't unsubscribe, and maybe they'll even reach out and want to see a house. Additionally, a lot of people have a house to sell. So you want to look them up and see if they have a house to sell. And if they have a house to sell, get them set up on a market watch. Send them an email with the recent comps in their neighborhood and say, hey, I just thought you might be interested to know, this house just came on the market in your neighborhood, or this house just sold in your neighborhood. Here's some information. So you're trying to provide value to these folks so that they are engaged with you. But at the same time, you don't want to be too pushy. You want to be available, you want to be informative, but you don't want to be obnoxious, because if you're obnoxious, you will fall to the bottom of the list, and they will probably block your calls and unsubscribe from your emails. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to plan your next open house, and you should be doing open houses frequently. So I hope you found this super informative. I'm not the know-all be-all of open houses, but I will say that I have had extremely good luck getting open house buyers from open houses, and you can do it too. You have to be personable, you have to be engaging, you have to be charming, you have to be funny, you have to be an expert in real estate in order to connect with these buyers at an open house. And if you're a real estate agent, then you should be all of those things already. So be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And I am planning to have lots of other information in the future.